What can I say about Curse of Strahd that hasn't already been said? It's one of the most popular, if not the most popular module in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. This video is my take, my personal opinion on my favorite Dungeons & Dragons module ever written. A module that I keep coming back to, and one that even those who are brand new to Dungeons & Dragons ask to be run for them. This is Curse of Strahd. This is a multi-part series that is going to cover Curse of Strahd, and a lot of it is opinionated. I respect that there are many disagreements on what is a pro and a con to this game. It is also important to know that this series will have spoilers, so if you're looking to play the game, come check the video out when you're no longer worried about the spoilers. Is a vampire something that you should just happen upon in a game? Is it just a bag of hit points, or a creature that deserves more than just a spot on a random encounter table? Well, Tracy Hickman thought the latter, when in 1978 he encountered one in a dungeon as a random enemy. Tracy was thrown off by this encounter, and it led him to discuss it with Laura Hickman, his wife. Together, the two dove deeply into vampire lore. To quote Tracy, "We started with the vague black and white image of Bela Lugosi in 1931, but found so much more." Tracy and Laura's research led them to John William Polidori and Lord Byron's work The Vampire, and Bram Stoker's novel Dracula, which helped create a rich and dynamic villain and a world for him to rule over. A monster that welcomes you into his home. In 1983, TSR published the Hickman's work in I6, Ravenloft. This is when the world was introduced to a new kind of RPG villain, a thoughtfully written one, Strad von Zarovich. In my opinion, a story is well remembered by two things: its characters and its setting. Even though Acererak is on the front cover and main villain of Tomb of Annihilation, and even though Tiamat is a well-known dragon goddess and is depicted on the cover of Rise of Tiamat, I honestly don't remember much about them in those adventures. The evil villain in many games I've played, not just limited to D&D, have been relatively forgettable for me. Ask my table who the overarching villain of Storm King's Thunder was. They might say Imrith, but can any of them remember his motives, his bonds, and desires? There are many well-written modules, but why is Strad von Zarovich so memorable? Why is he the villain that everybody remembers? Sympathizing with evil is not something that most of us can easily do. Yet somehow, this ultimately evil villain is someone we can feel for, at least in some regards. A warrior prince who lost his father King Berev, Strahd waged wars against his family's enemies and slayed the last of them in a beautiful valley which Strahd named Barovia after his late father. The peace that followed left Strahd restless, and was fearful that his best years were behind him. Not only that, but he was jealous of his brother Sergei, who was sheltered by his mother, Queen Ravenovia. Acting in fear of dying a dull old man, and jealous of his mother's affection centered on Sergei, Strahd made a pact with the Shadowfell and promise of immortality. Wanting his mother's love, and not fully realizing her fear of him was from his bloodthirsty nature, commanded the subjects of his land Barovia to construct a beautiful castle, and which he named after his mother, Ravenloft. Vying for his mother's attention and love, he commanded his brother and mother to come to Barovia and live with Strad. Queen Ravenovia never got to see her namesake. She died on the way to the castle. Stricken with anger and sadness, he turned his attention to a beautiful young woman, Tatiana. He loved her, but she loved the gentler brother of Strad, Sergei. Strad tried to live with all of this. A dead father, a mother he feared never loved him, and now a feeling of betrayal from his brother who took his one glimmer of hope in life. On Sergei's and Tatiana's wedding day, Strad looked at himself in the mirror and realized he had been foolish taking a back seat. His jealousy drove his violent feelings to the forefront, and he killed his brother and drank his blood, thus sealing his pact with the Shadowfell. Strad was now a vampire. He chased Tatiana into the castle gardens, trying to make her love him for as he did her. Fearful and in deep sadness for the loss of her love, she threw herself off the cliff of which Castle Ravenloft was built on. The guards of the castle, realizing what Strad had done, turned on him, pelting him with arrows to end his life and the family bloodline. It was too late, and in anger that can only be calmed by blood, Strad slayed everyone at the castle. In his breathlessness and covered in blood, panting, he looked up into the clouds and saw his parents looking down on him with disgust and horror. With the family bloodline dead, and at the anger that raged through him, Strad sealed himself in the land named after his father, along with the castle named after his mother, and everyone who lives within it, in a demi-plane filled with fog and dread, forcing all of those in there to feel his pain. Stumbling through the mists, you look for any landmark that isn't just dead trees. Wasn't the party just in a forest filled with leaves providing shade from the hot summer sun? The cold fog that has surrounded you makes even your nearest fellow party members nearly unseen. The chills that run up your spine aren't from the cold, it's from the cacophony of howls coming from behind you. There, you see a landmark. It's an old stone wall about chest height with a metal gate swinging in a breeze that you have yet to feel. The fog is behind you now, and dozens of pairs of glowing red eyes make you think twice about going back into it. A small sign on a decrepit post reads, Barovia. Barovia is a desolate place, filled with sadness and gloom. All the inhabitants are in a constant sorrow, with no feelings of joy or glimmer of hope. The dense fog that envelops Barovia blots out the sun and moon, making all hours appear like dusk. Discussed more in the next video about gameplay, most player characters will stumble into Barovia by accident. It doesn't matter why they got here, it just matters that they can't get out. Passing through a set of open double doors and a multi-story wall that goes east and west as far as the eye can see, the players come to the village of Barovia. The people in the land of Barovia have to do terrible things to survive, sometimes turning on each other or denying someone help just so that they may live another day. A constant background fear causes them to be heedful of the devil that overlooks them from his tall, foreboding castle. The setting is unlike any other commonly found in D&D. The fantastical medievalisms of Forgotten Realms and Greyhawk are left behind for the gothic horror made famous by the 1931 Bela Lugosi Dracula movies. Specific to Curse of Strahd, there are 3 big towns, as well as many other locales to discover. The village of Barovia is the first settlement the players happen upon when they get swallowed into the mists of this land. This is where most players will learn the extreme despair that everyone is in here. Desperate people doing desperate things. We will get more into what each village entails in the next episode, but this village is where the players get an idea of what they're really up against. The setting of Barovia is famous, and has the added benefit of veteran gamers to swap stories with newer gamers. Barovia is a dangerous setting where players will always have to be vigilant. It's a setting that forces veteran gamers to think differently, and newer gamers to understand that even in a game with magical healing, death can still occur. Strad uses his land to his advantage. He has spies everywhere. He looks through the eyes of animals and through hidden other spies in different ways, sometimes through magical means. If the legends are true, one of the villagers could be a disguised Strad himself. The setting in Curse of Strahd, Barovia, is memorable to so many people because it instills a sense of hypervigilance and skepticism. Usually a PC isn't afraid that a merchant in the market will turn into a monster, let alone a monster much tougher than the PC. The PCs are stuck in the land where anyone can be the enemy. The land is ruled by a villain that wants to get to know the PCs and wants the PCs to get to know him. You've entered a world much more dangerous than the one you came from. Make sure to subscribe to see the next video, where we discuss the powerful gameplay implications of having an intelligent and mobile villain in a setting that has danger at every turn.